Okay, welcome everybody. Welcome to the Friday webinar today. I'm Executive Director of Conservatory Canada, Derek Auger, and thanks for joining me here, those of you live in the Zoom room, and also those of you that are watching the replay later. My apologies, normally I would be sending out an email earlier in the week to remind everyone to join me or to sign up, but I've had some serious cybersecurity issues over the last couple of weeks, and this week I was without my laptop for most of the week, so a little bit of a rough week. Everything's good now, and back on the mend here with my computer, and hopefully everything sounds good. Those of you here in the Zoom room, if you're not hearing things clearly or the volume is not quite right, the settings aren't quite right, let me know. But I think I've optimized this for sound using my digital piano, using both a live mic and a feed coming straight from the digital piano. So hopefully you're enjoying the improved sound quality here. And I noticed that on YouTube the rendering is a little bit clearer and much better as well. Today we're going to play through the first half of Group 3 in Mosaics. I'll share my screen here and we'll get straight to it. I'm going to go to a table of contents so you can see here what we're looking at. So here's Group 1 and Group 2 we've already done. If you missed those webinars, check them out on the YouTube channel. I'm playing through all of the Baroque and classical pieces there. And Group 3 comprises Romantic and the modern selections, anything by living composers and composers from the 20th and 21st centuries. And today we're going to go through about half of it. We're going to start there, if you have the book, page 34, Remy Bouchard's Au jour de l'an. And then we're going to go all the way up to Highly Flammable, page 50 of Deborah Wanless. It's about 11 pieces. And then I'm thinking next Friday I'm going to play through the balance of that so that you can hear the rest of the book before December. And then sometime later in December, hopefully before Christmas, we'll have that grade 7 book launched. And I may even be able to sneak a webinar in there with the Group 1 music from grade 7 if we're curious. It's just going to take a little bit of time. It depends on when I get the first draft of that. It may have to wait until January. But we're already working on grade 8 as well in the background. The editing process is quite rich. We're really taking our time with the more difficult music here. It takes a longer to engrave, and there's so much more to choose from. We've read through so much music. And so here I think today you're going to see right away in Group 3 of a lot of Canadian composers, a lot of living Canadian composers, and pretty much all of those pieces you probably have not seen before in a conservatory album. Some of them have been published elsewhere, some of them are fresh and brand new. But it's nice to bring them all in under one house, and that's what we try to do here. So, having said that, I'm going to continue on here. I'm just going to get my chat box open. If anyone here in the live audience has questions for me as we go, feel free to ask away and I can stop. And I'll talk a little bit about the pieces here as we go, maybe not as much as I sometimes do. And again, feel free to, those of you in the chat box, let me know if the mic's not working for you or it's not. I have to remember to adjust it between when I'm speaking and when I'm playing. So we're going to start with Remy Bouchard. This is a really lively piece, celebratory kind of fanfare style of piece. It's in cut time, and so I'm going to try and do my best to move through it here with that sort of duple feeling. And I think students will understand once they hear it exactly what's expected and what they can do. I think the danger in this one would be to play it slowly with a 4/4 kind of feel. It'll lose some of the excitement. So hope you enjoy this to start our set off today. Excitement, I forgot to scroll ahead to that piece so you can see it on the screen. I'll bring it up right now so you can have a little peek at it. Just got to get to that spot in the book. Here it comes. So it's just a 1-page, or no, it's 2-page piece of a nice key change in the middle, It's got a fun little tune here. You know, for grade 6, it's pretty doable, I think. Lots of little articulations. Sometimes you'll see this, the students will see the staccato articulations here and there with still, I think we're pedaling through. That's telling our hands what to do, and our pedal can pedal through it. A tricky part on the second page when the left hand grabs the melody. That took me a little while to kind of put together how I was going to do that, how I was going to orchestrate it. And you can see the dynamics marked that way so that the left hand carries more of the tune there. So anyway, a nice fun piece. It's about the new year and New Year's Day. Let's go on to the next piece, something quite a bit different here. And this one, first written by our publisher, Andrew Harbridge. He's got many pieces throughout the series, as you've seen. And so he took his arrangement of the Otanabe River, gave it to the late Lee Evans, who's an American pianist, jazz pianist, and educator and composer. And he arranged his version of Andrew's version of this. So they both kind of get credit for writing this in some roundabout way. And this one's nice, gentle, flowing 6/8 time. It's tricky right off the bat to establish 6/8 and get this rocking motion going because we start on an offbeat or 5 pickup beats to the off to the depth to the first downbeat. And so I'm being very careful there to feel that and to feel a very clear down and up in a slow kind of motion. Very legato overall. And you can see there what the second page looks like. I'll leave the first page up so you can follow along with me here. I could hear the last note. You might not have been able to. Sorry about that. So this one, again, very legato. Lots of pedal tricks. You can see the left hand, has a lot of action, and there are times in the piece where I feel like the right hand only has a single long note, and there's more in the left hand. So balance will be an issue for young hands. To really work hard to get that left hand nice and quiet and calm, keeping the hand nice and relaxed, leaning into that right hand. It's something we see at this level a lot of students are kind of missing or they're still developing. So this is a good piece to work on that, how to give weight to the right hand melody and let it project while tapering it and inflecting it, keeping the left hand very much out of the way. That's the tricky part with this one, in addition to the rhythm, to keep it lilting so that you feel a distinct down and upbeat halfway through the bar. Going on to this Spanish by Agatha Grandal. You probably some of you may have seen this piece before. It's not all that rare. It's one of the few pieces that we see published by women composers of the time at this level, and we're happy to include it in the book here. It's quite fun and exciting. Starts in E minor. You get a real distinct Spanish flavor. Transitions to E major in the second half quite quickly there. Section B, the middle of the first page, and then back we get a simple A B A. But lots of style, lots of fun, lots of articulation, and lots of chance for students to express. So I'll do my best with this here today. Lots of style in this one. Different things, a cellorando even at the finish, little accents, places where you have to be detached and perhaps off the pedal. So in this one there's times where we're not pedaling through things. You can see even senza pedale in the middle of the second page here, bar 43. To keep it clean, keep it tight, keep it interesting, lots of character and flavor. So I hope you enjoyed that. Next is a prelude by Stephen Heller. Out of his many preludes, a sort of etude styles. This one's another nice 6/8 lilting time. Working on double thirds, so we've written in carefully some double third fingerings there for students to consider. And that's just to consider. Everyone's hand's different at this level. Double thirds, playing them legato is not a regular thing generally, but it's something we just sort of try to develop early. And we've got a nice simplified left hand, and that's why I think this one fits nicely in grade 6. Simplified left hand, but the right hand can work quite intricately. I'm also trying to voice those double thirds as I play them, so the top note of the third is louder. That's a bit advanced for grade 6, but I think it's something that students could hear if they're ready to hear that at this level anyway. Also lots of dynamic contrasts, and with this one I'm finding as I learn it, because I wasn't overly familiar with this piece to begin with, that despite being 6/8, it's marked allegretto, I'm trying to stay on the slightly slower side of this one to keep it calm. It seems to suit it and give it a nice sort of flavor. We get lots of opportunity for style. It's so nice to get to group 3 here in a way. There's so much emotional content. We can be flexible with the pulse, flexible with the dynamics and expression. So if you have those students that love to express at the piano, so far I just feel like the variety you're going to see here in group 3 is quite amazing, to my ears anyway. It's a really nice upgrade from our old series, I think. There's places where we have accents, little top hats, SF. I try not to overdo those. Those are just focal points, make them feel like the downbeat. And it's hard to find that fine balance between hitting too hard and we try not to take them too literally. And you can see, like in the 4th line here on this page, marked piano in the left hand with SFs in the middle of the staff. I'm still trying to keep that all under wraps a little bit. Make them all feel like downbeats without getting too heavy is the feeling here. And again, lilting down and up and down and up. That's what I'm trying to show off there in this prelude by Heller. Next, On the Lake by Hoffman. This is a more famous piece perhaps. I'm sure most of you have heard it at some point or seen it published somewhere, and we're happy to include it here. Again, nice legato lines, lots of action in the left hand. It needs to remain quiet, and the left hand here is going a little further than we might normally see, up at 12th. Sometimes it has to travel through its arpeggios and broken chords. So a little bit of difficulty there. And on the second page, you get a little bit of left hand melody from time to time. And again, lots of variety and expression. And you can be playing around with the pulse a little bit in the rubato. And I try to save those sort of hold back moments for the ends of longer sections. Trying not to micromanage and get too flexible with the pulse in the middle of phrases too often. Otherwise it breaks down the structure. second page of that at the end. See, in this version here, I'm actually seeing an error, and I'm pretty sure it's been corrected already. The copies that you may get, if you still have to purchase, will probably have this, or maybe that isn't. I'm just seeing an auxiliary tie there at the end that I'm not sure should exist with the low G should be tied, I'm not sure. Anyway, it's going to be corrected in your version there. I think that's looking different than mine, though. Yeah, that is different than mine. The what's on the page here is correct, actually. And then sometimes we get these inspirational quotes. The essence of the beautiful in unity is unity in variety. Felix Mendelssohn. So you can see we love 6/8. Here's a 4/4 piece, very similar in style in some way, but more modern take, February Blessing by Lynette Sawatsky. A flat major. In the middle it shifts to B flat major, which is a really interesting sort of flip of color there all of a sudden. Tricky for the left hand. Starting in grade 6, we start to travel these broken chords again over more than an octave quite regularly. Really exploring different ranges in the keyboard here, getting through the flats, and again trying to sustain longer note values in the right hand while inflecting and keeping the left hand out of the way. That's sort of the name of the game here when it comes to balancing and getting the ideas across. Such a nice resolution there at the end, isn't that beautiful? And so it's very tricky, I find. Trying to be as accurate as I can there. If you hear a wrong note, please understand. My nervous system's a little in overdrive lately, and so it's pretty hard to focus and get everything absolutely correct. I'm just trying to give you the idea of the piece and perhaps a little bit of ideas when it comes to style. At the beginning in this one, I don't know this piece that well yet, but I'm finding myself settling on being a little bit cautious at first on the first page. With the phrases a little bit more careful, a little bit more pause and breath between them. And then as it gets toward the bottom of the first page and certainly into the second page, then I'm pushing a little bit more with longer phrases. I kind of think that feels like a nice way to reveal the structure in this one. And perhaps the most difficult piece here in the album, Waltz in A minor, Schumann. This one's always been in the grade 6 lists for conservatories for decades. And I often think, gee, it probably should belong. When you first look at it, it looks innocent enough, but it probably belongs in grade 7 at some point. But we're holding to the tradition here. We're keeping it in grade 6. So just keep in mind that you want to be careful who you give this to in your students. It looks a little too easy for 7, and that's why we keep it in grade 6. The left hand bounces around. It's hard to keep track of. Probably I would advise students to practice this quite slowly for quite some time. Get it in your hands. I'm going to try and take it slower than I want myself right now, just simply because it would be difficult to play it to the tempo I want to play it at this point. Simple ABA with a key change. Lots of sentimentality, interesting harmonies here that Schumann is alluding to, and a neat sort of tumbling line here. Very romantic in style. At the end of the A section, you can see in the left hand there's a tenth. A tenth. I can play that solid, and I would, but I wanted to demonstrate what will happen with most young hands, is they probably break that a little bit. Playing the low A as an appoggiatura or as a grace note, boom, and then bringing the hands together on the beat. So again, very difficult here to balance. I've got lots of weight in my right arm to get over top of what's going on in the left hand, which is quite busy. A lot of hands separately practice is probably good for this one too. And that middle section quite death-defying to track both hands at the same time when the right hand's in octaves. Butterfly Wings by Karen Rowell, Canadian composer. We've had a few of her pieces in the series. This one's really nice and light and fluffy. We've got a nice melody or counter melody in the left hand, some notes that you can pull out in the right hand, but most of the action, I think, orally is in the left hand here. And so that's what I'm tracking and trying to keep my right hand very much out of the way, almost like the wind or something. A lot of different images you can play with this one, but a good one to get students left hand and listening to their left hand more and learning to get that right hand in the background is what I think this one's all about. So a nice exploration of modern harmonies. You know, I should say too, a lot of these pieces, even though they're in, you know, our so-called classical book, anything from Group 3 can be used on the contemporary idioms exam as well. And there's a lot of pieces, especially like this, that I think would fit on the contemporary exam quite nicely without blowing a classical choice. So on the contemporary exam, you can choose up to one piece in classical style. This is not one of those. Anything in Group 3 can just be a straight up contemporary piece. By classical style, we would mean something from Group 1 or Group 2 in grade 6. What do we have next? Oh yeah, finally it's warm, and the snow is melting. So opposite of what we're seeing now, where we're transitioning to winter here, at least in my part of the country. Wes Fraze, this is his piece that was published a number of years ago in a collection. I came across this and thought it would be a neat piece to include. It's got a simple rhythmic issue here where the left hand's purely in 6/8. So is the right hand, but the first half of most bars is a duplet rather than a triplet. And so it's really good to try and divide the student's mind and get them to feel 2 beats per bar, and that the right hand doesn't lock into exactly what the left hand's doing, but playing its own rhythm separately. So it gets a student's mind really used to tracking two melodies or two rhythms at the same time. A little bit of polyrhythm. I found I used to play this one probably a little bit too fast, and now I've slowed it down in the last couple of weeks. It's making it a little bit more accurate for me and a little easier to understand the 6/8 feeling that I'm listening for. Well, lots of fun to play. Tricky in the right hand, some of these little decorations is really going to challenge students if they're 4 and 5. So I think it's really good to develop finger 4-5 independence, this piece, especially if they were to play it brisk like that. I think that's more the way he wants it. There are some dynamic layers here, making sure we start quiet, getting a bit louder. And then in the section B towards the bottom there, I find there's no dynamic marking, but it's very helpful to think back mezzo piano so that you can build in the last line and bring it back to its conclusion from the start again. This is an example too where you would definitely do the repeat on an exam. Okay, we're getting near the end here of our set today. It's a piece by Joan Woodrow, one of our examiners, who lives in Newfoundland, and I think this is her third piece in the series. She wrote a collection. She's not an experienced composer necessarily, but you wouldn't know it. The way she writes has been so lean and concise and interesting, and she's written a set of pieces. This is the third we've published, but there are, I think, 6 or 7 in her set that she hopes to publish someday. All about life in Newfoundland with Celtic sounds, and you'll hear that influence here throughout this piece. The idea of returning home after a long trip, you're back on the rock and things are good, and you can sense the air and everything that island life is about, I think. So lots of Celtic themes here in a way, and again, right hand I'm trying to lean into a little bit to express and cut through the left hand, keeping the left hand out of the way. The left hand's nice and busy. It's a perfect piece for grade 6 here. Nice and lyrical, very soothing. I think a lot of students will enjoy playing this, along with many of the others. And then we're going to finish today, Highly Flammable, a piece by Deborah Wanless. We felt that in grade 6 here we were getting, everything was a little bit too lyrical and subdued, which is really nice. I think a lot of students are really into that right now. And so this is in there to balance that off. Really high energy, jazz hands here, C minor, a little bit difficult, but you're getting into the C blues scale. And the left hand's not too difficult. In this one, I'm trying to accent beats 2 and 4 more, which is very characteristic. If you get that backbeat feel in this one, then I think it's going to work quite well. She marks it presto con fuoco, so I'm going to take it fairly quick. I still think I'm not hitting presto, but I don't think I could imagine it playing any faster than I'm about to in terms of letting the sound hit the audience and be able to hear the phrasing and the detail clearly. So kind of a fun way to finish our set today. There's a look at the second page. Again, hard to get that detail out at that speed, but a lot of fun for students, those that want to play something, with rock edge to it. This would be a great piece to include with them. So that's the set for today. I want to thank everyone who's joining us on the replay here, and those that are watching the live stream on YouTube. I think we're going to stop the YouTube here right now and check out, I think I'm going to hit everyone's inbox middle of next week just to update you whether I'm going to be able to do the balance of the book next Friday or not. It would start with Remembrances by Paul Sheftel, and just going through here, we're going to hear Andrew Harbridge, Storm at Sea, a piece by Angelina Gibson, another new Canadian composer, and you can see the balance here. Actually really amazing music in part 2 as well, and I look forward to playing that for you. Hopefully next Friday, if not probably the first week of December. Just so everyone's aware, we're going to have a convocation ceremony online on Saturday, December 6th, just to honor our medal winners and our scholarship winners, and we're going to hear some live performances that day. And that'll be live on the YouTube channel here. There won't be a Zoom link for that one, but you can catch us live on the YouTube channel Saturday, December 6th, beginning at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. And I'll have some information about that going out in the emails for those of you that may want to join or watch that event online. It'll be about an hour long or so.